Lamed Tes Samed Aleph. We'll begin Lamed Ches Samed Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. We had a discussion about preparing from Shabbos to Yontiv, or Yontiv, one day Yontiv to the next day Yontiv. Rabbah held that even a minor preparation from one day to the next is awesome. Preparations for Shabbos and Yontiv have to be done from a day that was Chol, from the day before that was a Yom Chol. Shabbos can't be prepared for Yontiv, Yontiv can't prepare for Shabbos. So therefore Rabbah said, Be'eshin nolda b'Yontiv, nolda b'zeh, or b'zeh, because the preparation of the egg, it was laid. If it was laid on the first day of Yontiv, then Yontiv is preparing for the second day of Yontiv, and it's awesome. How can a person make an Eruv? How can a person put down the Eruv on for the second day? For if you have Shabbos and Yontiv or Smuch and Lahadadi, so how can he on Friday, for instance, make an Eruv that should be valid for Shabbos? Isn't it considered that Friday is preparing, that Yontiv rather is preparing for Shabbos? So Rabbah made a chiluk and said that where he doesn't have to make a declaration, then it's mutar. Just walking to the place and putting down the pas without a declaration, it would be mutar. If he has to make a declaration, it's hard. It's also. But if he doesn't, that type of a minor preparation is mutar. Says the Gemara, if Rabbah had heard the following brisa, he would have retracted his position. If he had heard the brisa that says a person cannot walk to the edge of his field, to know what's required after Shabbos or Yontiv. So on Shabbos or Yontiv, he can't walk to the edge of his field to determine what will have to be done after Shabbos. And similarly, a person can't walk to the edge of the province or to the edge of a large city. He can't walk there on Shabbos or on Yontiv to be able to go into the merchatz immediately after Shabbos or Yontiv. It's also to go into the base of merchatz in Shabbos and Yontiv. But to walk, and therefore even to walk to the edge of the Medina to be able to go in, is also. So you see over there that he's walking, he's not making a declaration, and nevertheless it's also. So Hadarbe, so Rabbah would have retracted his position, because apparently you see over here that even without making a declaration, even with just walking, it's also. But the Gemara says, Veloihi. No, it's not so. Shama le v'le harbe. He did know of this brisa, he did hear of it, and nevertheless he did not retract his position. He still maintained his position. Why is that? Hasa mucha milsa. Over there, in the case of the brisa, the reason that it's also because it's mucha milsa. It's clear to everybody that what is he doing? He's doing this to be able to do a malacha, to be able to do forbidden activities after Shabbos and Yontiv. Therefore, it's clear to people that this is a preparation for the next day. But over here, it's not mucha milsa. It's not clear that he's doing something that should be preparation for the next day. Why is that? If the person that's placing the Eruv is a Talmud Chacham, the people will think, well, what's he doing wandering off away from the city? They'll think if he's a Talmud Chacham, he's so orangutan in his learning, he's so preoccupied in his learning that he got distracted and absentmindedly walked off to this area. They don't think he's doing it necessarily for the purpose of the Eruv for the next day. If he's an Aretz, they'll assume that what's he doing wandering over here past the edge of the city? Perhaps he lost his donkey, he's searching for his donkey, which is not forbidden on Shabbos, and they therefore don't think that he's doing something that is also to do for Shabbos, that he's doing this as a preparation for the next day. Meaning, Rabbah holds that a chana is aser. You can't be mechin from Shabbos to Yontiv, Yontiv to Shabbos, or from Yontiv to Yontiv. However, a minor activity is mutar. So therefore, he says, where you're placing the Eruv, where you're kind of shisa with the Eruv, if no declaration is required, then that type of minor activity is mutar. However, if you have to make a declaration, then it's aser. However, in a case, even where it's a minor activity, and there's no declaration, but if it's mucha milsa that you're doing this for the next day, he would say that's also aser. But nevertheless, in the case of the Eruv, where there's no declaration, that's not mucha milsa, it's mutar. Gufa, Omer Rav Yehuda, Erev Baragla B'Yom Rishon. Rav Yehuda says if a person made his Erev for the first day of Yontiv Biragla by his physical presence, not by placing down pas, but by physically present at the place where he wants to be kind of shvisa, Mar Baragla B'Sheni. Then he makes the Erev for the second day also with his physical presence. But Erev Pas B'Yom Rishon, if he did it with pas on Yom Rishon, Ma'ar Pas B'Yom Sheni, he makes the Erev with the pas on the second day. Erev Pas B'Rishon, Ma'ar Baragla B'Sheni. But if he's Erev Pas B'Rishon, if he did with pas on the Rishon on the first day, he did it with pas, he can still make an Erev Baraglav on the second day with his physical presence. But Erev Baraglav B'Rishon, but if he's Mar Baraglav B'Rishon, Ein Mar B'Pas B'Sheni, then he's not allowed to make the Erev for the second day with pas. She'ein Ma'arvim B'Tchilu Pas. Because to make an Erev initially with pas, that the pas wasn't there, and to make it initially with pas, you can't do. Because if he makes an Erev of pas on the first day, he can use the pas on the second day, and since he's just reinstating the Erev, he doesn't have to make a verbal declaration, so therefore it's mutter, there's no problem with achana. If he's Mar Baragla B'Rishon, so his physical presence the second day, he can do it as well. You don't need a declaration. Even if he was Mar B'Pas Rishon, but if he's physically present at this place where he's making an Erev, he doesn't have to make a declaration, and therefore it's mutter. But if he's Mar Baraglav, but if it's Mar Baraglav on the first day, and then Ein Mar B'Pas V'Sheni, he can make an Erev on the second day with pas, because to make an Erev to begin with pas, that it was not made before, and now you're doing it, so you're initiating for the first time, you would have to make a declaration, and that's also because of achana. Yeah. So Erev Pas B'Yom Rishon, Mar Pas B'Yom Sheni. If he made an Erev on pas on the first day, he's Mar Pas on the second day. Omra Shmuel Uba Oisa Pas. However, it means it's more restricted. It's not only with pas, it means the same pas. Because as we mentioned, that it has to be considered like he is reinstating the Erev. To be reinstating the Erev, it has to be the same bread. If it's not the same bread, it can't be reinstating. He would have to make a declaration, which is achana. So it has to be be'oisa pas. Amar Ravashi Dekan Namas Nisin can be diked from Mishnah because it says Iktani Keseru Oisa. Our Mishnah says, what does he do when, for instance, you have Yom Tov is on Friday, and then Shabbos, what does he do? So he says, Malicha Barish. So on Thursday, you bring the pas to the place where you want to be kind of the Shvisa. You Malicha, you bring the Erev on for the first day. You wait until it's dark, you wait until it's Yom Tov, and then you take the Erev, you can take the Erev and you come home. So you can take, so to make sure that it doesn't get lost or stolen, you take the Erev with you, you come home, then you come on Friday, back to the same place. So you want to make, now this Erev should be for Shabbos, and then you can eat the Erev, and you come home. So you see a raya from over here, that you're taking the same Erev. So since you're taking the same Erev, it shows you that it has to be ba'isa pas. It's in, you're taking the Erev, and it shows you that it has to be ba'isa pas. So Zok the Gemara v'Rabbanan. Now Abaya and Rabbi Bar Chanan, they seem to disagree with Rabbi. They seem to disagree with him, and they seem to say that there should be no difference, that this type of achana should not be awesome. Well, therefore, if that's the case, why do you have to take back the same bread? You should be even be able to take different bread, because even if you do have to make a declaration, they held that that type of achana is not awesome. So why do you have to why is the Mishnah saying, stay there, take that bread and come home? Doesn't that show you like Rabbah? Doesn't that show you clearly like Rabbah that a declaration would be also? So it's dafka, you can be ma'arav the second day with pas, but oisa pas, and it has to be the same bread, where you're taking back the same bread and you don't have to make a declaration. And that's why it's mutter. But if it be a different bread, different pas, where you would have to make a declaration, it would be also. So how will they explain it? The Gemara says no, they don't have a kash with that. Perhaps the Tan is not saying that it's required to bring back that same bread, and it's required to use that same bread for the air for the next day. It's an Eitzah Taiva. Perhaps the Tan is just giving an Eitzah Taiva. If you want to be able to use the same bread, wait there till it's dark, come back, and bring the bread with you and bring it back the next day so you don't have a raya to it. Zok the Mishnah, Rav Yehuda Imer, Rosh Hashanah Shayara Shemet Yisaber. It's Rosh Hashanah that he was not sure if it would be a 1 day or 2 day Rosh Hashanah. So in earlier times, before they fixed the calendar, Rosh Hashanah, just like every month, was set by Edom coming, that they testified that they saw the new moon, and therefore it would be Rosh Chodesh and be Rosh Hashanah. Now, of course, we have 2 days now. We keep 2 days every year. But originally, it was Rosh Hashanah was made up on that basis, like every Rosh Chodesh. So if a person now, he's holding on the 30th day of Elul, he doesn't know if the Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Chodesh is going to be on that day or the next day. So it's like a Safek, which day is going to be Rosh Hashanah, it's like similar to a 2-day Yontif. So therefore, he says, Ma'arim Shnei Eruvin. We treat 2 days of Rosh Hashanah as a Safek, so he can make 2 Eruvin. And just like on a regular 2-day Yontif, he can make 1 day the Erev, he can be for the Mizrach, and the second day for the Marav. Rishon L'Marav, V'Sheni L'Mizrach, or vice versa. Or Eruvit Barishan, V'Sheni V'Kivin Eiri. Or you can say, I want the Erev to be with the first day, and the second day I want to be as a resident of the city that I'm in, and have Alpayim Hama from my city. Or Eruvit V'Sheni Barishan Kivin Eiri. Or the Erev should be for the second day, and the first day I want to be like a resident of my city. So we treat the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah as 2 Kedushas, 2 separate Kedushas, and you can make an Erev for 1 day in one direction, and Erev in another day in a different direction. But the Chacham disagreed with that. They say, no, we don't treat the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah as 2 Kedushas. It's 1 Kedusha. It's like 1 long day. And just like you can't make an Erev for part of Shabbos in one direction and another part of Shabbos in another direction, or Yontiv, you can't make for the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah a separate Erev in different directions. Additionally, so following the same theme, that he considers the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah to be 2 Kedushas, we give another example, and tomorrow we'll discuss why he gives all of these separate cases. We'll have this case and another case. Tomorrow we'll discuss why it's necessary to see this case. But he says, in a similar vein, now it's also to be mafresh trumas and maasros on Yontiv. That's considered to be misakin. But since we consider it 2 kedushas, a person can make a tanai on a basket of tevel, and he can be mafresh it all tanai. He can be masan al kol b'yontiv rishon and vayichl b'sheni, and be able to eat it on the second day. So as the Gemara will explain, he takes up 2 baskets, and on the first day he says, if today is really chol, is not yontiv, I'm being mafresh truma from this basket, and it should be afrosha for the other basket, and then the other basket should be chulin and mutar la'achila. If today is really kodesh, what I'm saying should be meaningless. And for the next day he does the same, similar type of thing. He says, if what I did yesterday, if yesterday was really Yom Kodesh, then what I did yesterday has no meaning. And if today is a Yom Chol, then I'm mafresh today, I'm doing the hafrosh of the truma from this basket on the other basket. If today is really Kodesh, what I'm saying today is meaningless, and my hafrosh from yesterday should be chol. So therefore, Memonoshach, and in either event, by the second day, he's had a valid afrosha. if you consider it two separate Kedushas and one day is really Chol and one day is Kodesh, then in any event, he has made a valid Afrasha on one of the days of a Yom Chol. V'chein be'esh and all the Barishan, and similarly, if there was a be'ah that the egg was laid on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, Teichel B'Sheni, it can be eaten on the second day. Because of Monashach, the same reasoning. One of the days is really Rosh Hashanah, the second day is not. So if the first day is Kodesh, you can't eat it on the first day because it's Kodesh and it's Muktzah, it's Noila. But then the second day is Chol, and therefore you can eat it on the second day. The second day is Chol, so you might Chol, and there is no Isser of Noila. If the first day is Chol, and the second day is Kodesh, well, the second day is Kodesh, and then the first day is Chol, it was Noilad on the first day, it wasn't Noilad on the day of Yontiv, it was Noilad on Erev Yontiv, Minater, it's considered Erev Yontiv, so it's Moter. So the premise on all of this is because he treats the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah like a 2 day of Yontiv Shel Goliath, which one is Kodesh and one is Chol. But Chacham disagreed because they say it's considered one long day. It's Kedusha Achas. Rav Deisa ben Arkin the same he says, the one was the Shaliach Tzibor. B'Yom Shel Rosh Hashanah, on Rosh Hashanah, Aimer Hachli Sein Hashem Elokeinu es Yom Rosh HaChodesh. He says that strengthen us Hashem on this day of Rosh Chodesh. Im Hayom Im L'Mocher, whether it's today or tomorrow, because we treat it as a suffix. Or L'Mocher Hu Aimer, and the next day, the second day of Rosh Hashanah, he says Im Hayom Im Memesh, and the same Tefillah Hachli Seinu, and he says Im Hayom Im Memesh, if today is Kodesh, or if yesterday was. But the Chacham disagreed with this. We'll see in the Gemara why they disapproved of this. So man loy loy. So it says that they did not agree with Rav Yehuda. They didn't agree that Rosh Hashanah is loy loy chacham. They did not agree to it. So who is it that they disagreed and they said that Rosh Hashanah is Kedusha Achas? Amar Rav says Rav Yasi. It's Rav Yasi that we see in this following brayso. Sanya meidim chachamim el Rabbi Eliezer. The chachamim agree with Rabbi Eliezer. Rosh Hashanah shayarish emet tisaber. If he's afraid on Rosh Hashanah, he's not sure if it's going to become uber or not. So, even though they say that on the Shabbos and Yom Tov that come next to each other, you cannot be ma'ariv in two separate tchumim for a Shabbos and Yom Tov that are smuchim for each other. You can't ma'ariv 2 separate tchumim. But the moed Rosh Hashanah shayish emet tisaber. Then ma'ariv shnei Eruvin. Over there, they agreed that you could make 2 separate Eruvin. I mean, the older Kedusha Shabbos and Yom Tov, that's considered Kedusha Achas. But 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, well, one day Minater is Kodesh, the other day is Chol. So Marvam Shnei Eruvin. And he can say, V'aymer Eruvin B'rishon L'mizrach B'sheni L'marav, or B'rishon L'marav B'sheni L'mizrach. Eruvin B'rishon B'sheni Kivnei Yeri. Eruvin B'sheni B'rishon Kivnei Yeri. So they said you can treat it as 2 separate days, make Eruv in 2 separate directions, or the Erev should be for one day, not for the second day. Rav Yasi Aiseh, but Rav Yasi Ases. Rav Yasi says you cannot. So you see over here that this Rav Yasi says is Kedusha Achas. So similarly, in our Mishnah, the ones that argue in Rav Yehuda, that's Rav Yasi that says you cannot make 2 separate Eruv in Rosh Hashanah. We treat it as one day. Omer Lem Rav Yasi says to the Chacham, I'll prove to you that it's Kedusha Achas. Don't you agree? She'im bo Edom in a mincha lamala. That if Edom came on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, after the time of mincha, now they did not accept Edom after that late time. On the first day of Rosh Hashanah, they accepted Edom the entire day, and if Edom would come and say it's Rosh Chodesh, they would accept it and declare that today is Rosh Hashanah and tomorrow would not be. But up until Mincha, they would not accept. They accepted rather only up until Mincha. After Mincha, they would not accept the Edom. So therefore, even if Edom came and they said there was a new moon, so therefore Bezin certainly would not accept the Edom at that time. And therefore they knew that midaraisa, that this day is really not Rosh Hashanah, that tomorrow would be Rosh Hashanah min HaTorah. Nevertheless, aren't you minded that the Edom did come in a Menach Lamala, Shenogim Oisayam Kodesh L'Machal Kodesh, that they accepted both days. They, at that point in time, meaning, so from the beginning of the day of the first day of Rosh Hashanah, they didn't know if this would be Rosh Hashanah or not. They didn't know that if Edom will come today or not. So they had to, at that point, treat it like Rosh Hashanah because perhaps the Edom would come. So at that point, they treated it perhaps as a suffix. They didn't know if Edom would come, and therefore it was kept as a suffix. If Edom would come, then they would treat it as a Vadai Rosh Hashanah, and then the next day would not be at all. They would not treat it as Rosh Hashanah at all. If Edom would not come the entire day, Edom come the next day, then the next day is Rosh Hashanah, Vadai, and the previous day they kept it only as a suffix. But they didn't accept Edom after the time of Mincha. So if Edom came after Mincha, at that point in time, they still treated the day as Rosh Hashanah. They continued that keeping that day as Rosh Hashanah. They didn't want to be mezalzel in the day, because if they kept the first day as a suffix, then the end of the day as Yomei Chol, in future years, people would be mezalzel, and they said, well, last year we treated it as a suffix, it ended up not being Rosh Hashanah. They wouldn't treat seriously and strictly the suffix of the first day of Rosh Hashanah. So they declare that even though they're not accepting Edom in a Mincha Lamala, nevertheless, the remainder of the day would have to be Kiddush. So at that point, they know that min HaTorah, that this is not Rosh Hashanah. They know that they're going to accept the Edom the next day, and tomorrow is going to be midaraisa Rosh Hashanah. Nevertheless, they treated the rest of the day as Rosh Hashanah. So you see that they kept Rosh Hashanah, even though it wasn't a suffix, even though they knew that min HaTorah it wasn't a Yom Kaddish. So you see they kept it anyway. Nevertheless, they kept it. They were not a Yom Kaddish. Don't you see that it's not B'teres suffix? It's B'teres Vadai that you have to treat as Rosh Hashanah. V'Rabbanan, they say, over there, they kept it as Kaddish only because that, and only so far as that they should not be mezalzel with it. They should not treat it lightly in future years and say, well, last year we started off the day keeping it as Rosh Hashanah, and they ended off the end of the day we kept it as Yomei Chols. So since they were concerned that people would be mezalzel with it, they said you have to be noyeg with it as Rosh Hashanah, but not that it has the kedusha of Rosh Hashanah. Not that it has the extra. They had to, even though they knew that min HaTorah it would not be a Rosh Hashanah, it would not be Yom Tov, they kept it as a Yom of Rosh Hashanah, but not with any separate special Kedusha, and therefore not with the Chumras of Rosh Hashanah itself. They kept it, the Chum hold, as they kept it, they were machmir to keep it as a Yom Kaddish, but not more than would be if they were keeping it as if it would be a suffix. I mean, even though in reality they knew that it's not a suffix, they knew that tomorrow Vad is Rosh Hashanah, they kept it. Only Shalir Zalzabah, but they didn't keep it on a higher level more than had they, the way they kept it as a suffix. So therefore, that is a dispute based on that, whether we say that Rosh Hashanah is considered one day or not. As a side, why didn't they accept Edom in a Mincha Lamala? As the Gemara Rosh Hashanah says, they didn't accept Edom in a Mincha Lamala because one time when they did the Karbonos and Ramak of the Karbonos, so the Levim had to say the shir. They had to say the special song, the special shir in the Beis HaMikdash. One year Edom were delayed in coming. It came already the afternoon, and Edom didn't come. So the Makar, the Talmud Shel Bein Harbaim, and they assumed Edom haven't come until this late hour. They won't come, and they said the shir of Yomei Chol, of Yom Chol, and not of Rosh Hashanah. In the meantime, however, after the fact, Edom did come. So Niskalkol Levim B'shir. So therefore, they declared that they're not going to accept Levim and Mincha Lamala, because if they do, there could be this problem with saying the wrong shir. So they didn't accept the Edom, and therefore the Edom, they would accept them the next day. The next day would be the Vada Rosh Hashanah and have the shir of Rosh Hashanah, and they would be able to be Mekayim the Shir of Rosh Hashanah for the next day.